Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight, the Thursday night edition, and a special show, not only because Varla Ventura is back, but it is our 9th anniversary tonight on the mighty SOR. Yes, 9 years tonight. And thank you, everybody who's tuned us in from the beginning until right now. I'll get more into that later. But first, we got Race Fan in the gold medal position, Simon the Likeable with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee with a bronze medal tonight. Robert Lamoth, Kurt M., and Karen in the Woo Train. Welcome to SOR tonight. Dino Bravo, SG Nav Spotter, Chris 716, JSCO, Roy Boy, Lee the Bee, and Kevin. Welcome back. Mama Susan, how you doing? Desert Rat and Palmer, Corey, and Free Your Mind. Nice to see you. Just another guy named Harry. Nice to have you here. Paul Perez. How you doing, man? And let's see here. Who else we got? T-Bone. What's happening, my man? And Jenny White Bear. Thank you for coming on in. And who else has joined us tonight? Jimmy Gonzalez is back. Latro has returned. Latro will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Lost Souls, what's going on? Chastity Moore, welcome back. Dirt Road, how are you, my dear? Dirt Road will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Sandra Kincaid and Millennium, my man. Thank you for coming on in. Hello, Laura Lobbs and Chris Laker. Welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for being new. And who else is here? Let's scroll on down, shall we? Let us say hello to Vanessa. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Continuing on, we say hi, Destiny Rocks. How are you? And who else is joining us here? Scrolling on down, Welsh Hammer. Little Timmy Senor has returned. Susie B, Noble Patrick, Chillgasm. Thank you for coming on in. Let's see. Doc from Wyoming, good to see you. And who else is here? Rat Sass and Dogman UK, good morning to you. Guy Calgary, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for coming on in. And Jay Burke, Chopper Morgan, welcome to SOR Chat from Indiana. Jay Burke, good to see you. And JBD, welcome back. Thank you for coming on in. Where are we? 5DRG, good to see you. Luscious Jules, thanks for coming on in. Ross Dogs and your broken spirit. Yes, I will start now. Okay, moving on now. Tokeland, good to see you. Kawhi Schneider, thank you for joining us. And we are caught up. Right there, we are caught up. Super Chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Going into year number 10 after tonight. Holy cow. Holy cow. Varla Ventura is here. She's the only lady I know who reads her own books. Nina Williams, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Let's start the radio side. And we welcome in everybody listening in on the podcast and radio side tonight. My name is Dave Scott. 9th anniversary show. My beautiful guest, Varla Ventura, will be joining us momentarily. And we're going to say hello to the handsome and talented Bill WD-40, who's going to lube us up for tonight's show when he gets in here. There he is. Hello, beautiful Bill WD-40. And we're going to have a great show with Bill tonight. And he's going to be lubing up all night long. Charlie Don't Surf, how you doing as we continue on with our roll call? Who else we got? Gong Show, thank you for coming on in. Blue Lightning Cards, nice to see you. Ruth Ellis, welcome to SOR Chat. And who else do we have here? Paramarv, thank you for coming in. 9 years. Wow. Super Chat is open. Wonderful way to support what we do on this show. Also, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. You actually want to wear our stuff, like I am, wearing the El Ovni Volador shirt. I heard that creep has been left or released out of prison in Mexico. All right, everyone. It's that time of the night to throw your horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of awesomeness tonight as Varla Ventura from our Crypted world joins us to talk about monsters, banshees, and maybe even some Christmas woo as well. Then, in hour number 3, Steve Stockton kicks it off with another spooky story. Robin Haynes has the Crypted Report. It is Dave 101 night and the weird news of the week. Oh, I love this time of year. Before I bring in our guest, Varla Ventura, I want to say a giant, giant thank you to everybody in the Spaced Out Radio world. Why? Well, tonight is our 9th anniversary of being on air. And I remember 9 years ago where there was like 10 people listening on a podcast site called Blog Talk Radio, which was like the no-name brand of broadcasting that cut out every night, had trolls literally hacking into their system every night. It was horrible. And I never thought I would continue it until things started moving forward in 2016, moving on to 2017, 2018, getting our YouTube started throughout the years. And I want to say a big thank you to a number of people before we move on here. And I will take that time. Why? Because I'm the captain of this ship, and I know that I'm allowed to. I want to say a big thank you to our affiliates around North America. Jody at Saga 960 in Mississauga, Ontario. At the Rattler and the Bull in Apache Junction, Arizona. Thank you, Len, for letting us take over the evenings there. Chuck Contreras at Z93.7 Classic FM in Ridgecrest, California. Very much appreciate it. Ryan at 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia. Rocking the key with us. Joe at UPRN. We've been with you for years. Thank you for your support. And Charlie over at Channel X94 in Vernal, Utah, giving the entire area, including Skinwalker Ranch, our voice. And everybody at KZAX in Bellingham, Washington, for their support as well. I also want to say a big thank you to my team. you can't do it without team members. Some come and go, but the consistency has always been there. And I want to say thank you so much to Kat Walters and Kira Ingalls for being a huge part of keeping me sane. Jessica Jones and Rob G on the weekends. Thank you very much for your broadcast. The Preacher, Eric Markham, Grant Baker, Justin Shapker, Nicole, and of course, Dirty Filth for keeping me sane. And of course, one other mentor that I have in this field, Science Bob McGuire. I love him. I love them. Without them and the people who helped build this in the past, we wouldn't be anywhere going into year number 10, which starts tomorrow night. And it's emotional because you look back and you try and think, what were the highlights? What were the lowlights of the last number of years? There wasn't many low. That's just stress. But the highlights come almost each and every night because we try to bring it. You people have wrapped yourselves warm in tinfoil to enjoy what we do on a nightly basis. So thank you. And if you have a glass with you, raise it up, say a cheers to SOR because we own the night. So thank you so much. All right, enough of the emotional stuff tonight. It is that time of the month where we get into the dark side of the paranormal and supernatural world with our cryptid world and the extremely talented and knowledgeable writer, author, Varla Ventura. She's been in this position for a number of years now where she comes on once a month to talk about the stranger creatures that are out there like Pookas, Changelings, Mermaids, Witches, Banshees. No, it's not all about Dogman and Bigfoot for her. The darker, the better. Her website, varlaventura.net. And we are going to say that you are going to make a special announcement here, and a congratulations may be owed to you on a new book contract.
Yes, but let me just say, I'm congratulations to you. This is a marvelous. It's not just a show, but you've got a whole sort of culture, and you sort of cultivated a family of people. And I was lucky enough to meet many of them in person this year in Vegas, and it really is an amazing group. I've told you before, I mean, there were shows that I stopped being on because the comments were unmonitored and, kind of, I mean, I don't mind a little controversy, but they just would get really gross. So I've always appreciated that about how conscientious you are about how your guests are treated, and also how your other audience members are treated in the chat. And I think that really shows because you have this loyal following. So I am honored to be part of it. Thank you for making me a regular guest, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. But we couldn't do it without great guests such as yourself who come on here, not just monthly like yourself, but great guests who tell us, it's not for me. When I looked at this show, when we put this show together 9 years ago, I wanted that feeling of darkness, happy, spooky darkness that Art Bell used to bring to us back in his heyday.
I think you've achieved that.
I think we're almost there. And it's
I'm
not
happy to be part of that darkness.
It's not always about the most popular guest. Some of the best stories that we have had are from people that nobody has ever heard of. Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you find that diamond in the rough, like we did with Ronald Murphy or Nelson Dellis or many others, Eugene Braxton, another one who many people may not know their names door to door or conversationally, but when you hear them speak and you are blown away by their knowledge and their brilliance and their gorgeous way of delivering their story, it just makes you fall in love with these topics each and every night. They're so different, yet they're so the same.
It's true. It's true that with a rather eclectic mix of guests and varying experts, it's compelling enough that you want to listen, even if it's not something you know about or are particularly interested in. I think that's a sign of a really successful show, that people just keep tuning in and just to see, what's gonna happen. So, and you have a great way of drawing. I mean, you're obviously a professional, so you know how to ask the right questions and make your guests feel comfortable. So I know I'm comfortable.
Well, that's good. That's good. And Varla,
I got a new chair, so I'm really comfortable.
besides a new contract, we are going to talk about this new chair that you have.
Yeah.
But, honestly, though, you are so talented and incredibly passionate about these subjects. For you to do something that not a lot of authors actually get, which is a book contract.
Yeah, another one.
That just shows how amazing you are at the job that you do in bringing these stories to light. So thank you and congratulations.
Well, thank you. I've felt a little stressed about it because it's been a couple of years since my last book came out. Actually, it's been, I think, 4 years. There's a moth in here, so if I start grabbing at things, that's what I'm doing. So let's see, it's been 19, 20, 21. 22. It's actually been 6 years. And it's not for lack of trying. I've had multiple book proposals out there, and there was a lot of interest in a couple of the ideas right before the pandemic, and then the bottom kind of just went out of everything, especially publishing. So there it is. Oh, sorry.
The feeling.
So yeah, so I've been really trying hard to get another book contract because I love writing, but I love being paid to write just as much. So in order to kind of justify the amount of research and time that goes into the book projects that I work on, I really like to have, some serious interest from a publisher. So yes, I do have a new book contract. It's signed. The manuscript will be done in a few months, and then it actually will be coming out in in spring of 2025. So it'll take them probably about a year to create the book.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's a little bit different, not super different. I think I've probably mentioned it a couple of times on the show before because I have been working on this book for a while, but it's so I don't, for anyone who's familiar with my book Fairies, Pookas, and Changelings, that's sort of like an approach to the fairy kingdom with collections and sort of like looking at folklore and kind of compiling creatures within the different cultures. And so this is kind of like that, but this is actually an exploration of plants. And so it's medicine, magic, and specifically folklore about plants. And it's arranged by plant. So I'm a big plant nerd, and I'm excited I can actually kind of mesh it into a little bit of the magical realm. And word on the street is it's going to be a hardcover book. So that would be, I think that'll be my first hardcover book. So could be fingers crossed that still works out. But yeah, so I'm very excited about that.
Can you give us a hint on what you're going to be writing about?
Yeah, I'm going to be writing about plants. That's what I'm writing about. I'm writing about plants. I'm writing about the magic and medicine and folklore of specific plants. Like green things.
Got you.
So it's basically like I'm going through various gardens. So the first one is the Queen's Garden, and then there's the Witch's Garden. So there's poison plants, and it's an exploration of folklore, but as told through the with the lens of botany. It's basically, yeah. That, and then there's they're asking for a mushroom related follow-up, so I got to kind of work on that a little bit. But I just signed the contract on the plant one. Exact title is up for debate right now, but it will probably have the word plant in it. And yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be great. I love, like, I'm a big plant nerd. I love I love herbalism and botany and anything like gardening, anything that is related to mythology, magic, all of those things. And I've just actually kind of been working on this book for years because I have this massive collection of books that are all of these different folk and fairy tales that have, so I've been like, basically I'm going through them and finding references to specific plants and then weaving that together as a story about that plant. Plus it's like ethnobotanical properties. So yeah, it's a little different than some of the other stuff that I've done, except I can promise you there will be some various creatures in there. So there will be cryptids woven throughout, because you can't really have a collection of folklore without including some really weird things. And werewolves will come into play, of course, because there's plants that you can eat to transform yourself into a werewolf, as well as antidotes that you can chaw down on to kind of cure yourself. So yeah, I'll be working on that all winter. Excited. It's a good one.
Yes, and I'm sure the fairy realm will be highly involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about gnomes? You gonna work with some gnomes in there
Yeah,
too?
there'll probably be some. I mean, gnomes kind of naturally fall into the sort of realm of the garden. They're sort of the guardians. So I'm sure gnomes will come into play. But rather than have it arranged by creature, which is kind of how the fairy, Pooka, and Changeling book is, which you can kind of tell from the very long title. But it's organized by plant. So, you'll pick a plant and you'll learn about, you'll read some kind of really cool stories about it and its history and all of that.
I got you. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Varla, when we look at some of these monsters, we don't think of monsters really going into the Christmas season, because it's all about peace, love, joy, family. Hallmark Channel, which is absolutely horrific on its own. I guess that could be a horror channel. You ever notice?
Oh my God, that's a brilliant idea. Hold on now. Hallmark horror. That is a whole new, you just invented a genre, my friend.
You ever notice in every Hallmark Christmas show that the lady is a journalist coming back from the big city?
It is. It's always like, or like it's some kind of writer, and it makes you feel really bad as a writer that you didn't fail and then succeed like that. Yeah. And then sometimes you get like you inherit like a castle, or you come back to like your small town and it's this really idyllic Hallmark town, and of course you're newly single and not interested in anyone, and then along comes Joe or whatever, like decorating
the local firefighter who
who also volunteers at the Christmas tree lot. Hey, we are writing this. This is writing itself.
Oh yeah.
Now all we have to do is throw an axe murderer in, and we are golden.
Yes. And the funny part about it is the majority of those Hallmark shows are made in my former hometown of Abbotsford, British Columbia.
Some of them are made in my former hometown of Nevada City, California as well. They must look very similar, and that sort of, is it sort of a Victorian-esque small town, or is it just...
they have a section of town that really hasn't changed since the 1920s.
Okay. So more Bedford Falls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or wherever the Gilmore Girls live, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I forget what that place was called, but yes, absolutely.
Oh, now I gotta look
anywhere.
Gilmore
winter.
Girls town.
Like Connecticut, miscellaneous Connecticut. Yeah.
Yeah. What the heck was it called? Stars Hollow.
Stars Hollow. Yeah.
That's like my old hometown, Stars Hollow. Where everybody knew everybody until the invasion of the Vancouverites showed up. Right.
There's people who still live in the hometown that I grew up in, and some of my closest friends still live there. And personally, I absolutely love that when I go there, I know no one except my family and my friends that I know that live there. I don't walk down the street thinking I'm going to run into so-and-so. I mean, every once in a while you do, but it's this is like there's been so many shift changes and so I'm like all for all the people from like San Francisco and Sacramento who have moved up there. I'm like, yes, please change the culture. Let me be a little more anonymous. Thank you. I love it. I don't need people to like, because they just look at you and they see, the teenager you were. Some people can never escape that. And I've made some mistakes.
Who hasn't?
Yeah. Who hasn't? I don't care anymore though. So that's fun.
No, I fully agree with you. And every town has their small town monsters. And, going back to your hometown where you grew up or where you live now, what were some of the legends around where you lived?
So where I grew up, when I wasn't in the San Francisco Bay Area, is not super far from where the Donner Party died, or some of the Donner Party died. It's not that far from Donner Pass. It's, a few miles down the hill to get to Truckee, and then you hit Nevada City. And it's so interesting because by today's standards, and you'll see when you're in Reno, you just fly on through there. It's like, yeah, what's the big deal? But of course, it was a huge deal because, it took everything was on foot and they were trying to get through, 16 feet of snow. And that snow up there is very heavy and wet. So there are quite a few kind of ghost legends around that area in particular. The town Nevada City has quite a few ghosts. Nevada City and Grass Valley is kind of its sister city, and there's a couple of old hotels there that have, supposedly the ghost of Black Bart and a few other kind of gold rush characters. As far as like monsters go, I didn't grow up hearing about a lot of legends or monsters, but there are two things that I learned living there. As a young kid, we had actually quite a few UFO sightings.
Oh, wow.
In the 80s. I remember there was one guy. Okay, so everybody, this makes you understand why I prefer my creature comforts now. So back then, we lived off grid. Everyone had an outhouse. If you've ever had to go to an outhouse, especially as a scared little kid in the middle of the night when there's snow on the ground, it's the worst, right? But anyway, so just to kind of set the scene, there's not a lot of light pollution up there. And there's so this one guy, I just remember being first time I'd ever really heard of a UFO. I was probably, I think my parents had probably watched Close Encounters and I was kind of too young, but I was exposed also. Like I watched The Shining when I was like 4. So go figure, right? So I feel like we probably had like, Close Encounters. And I thought it was cool because all I could remember was the mashed potatoes making the big mountain, which of course is Devil's Tower. Or as you say, stump versus rock, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're all on Team Stump.
I'm on Team Rock. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
I'm on Team Rock. I don't care if I'm different. But anyway, so that was the first time that I had ever heard of like anyone having a UFO sighting. And keep in mind, again, we weren't like, I think we had seen Close Encounters at some point, but like we didn't even really have television. So by the time we were living up there, it was, it was before ET. So there just wasn't really like a lot to do. This is how I came to know the fairies really well as companions in the woods. So there was this one guy, Tommy Shea, and I remember my parents talking about him seeing something very low. So a lot of people had seen strange lights and things like up in the sky. And there is an Air Force base not far from there. And also keep in mind that this is an area where people go to live off grid. So they're slightly distrusting of the military and the government, especially because there's a lot of veterans. Yeah. So,
all right, Varla Ventura. She's got some aliens in her old hometown. We'll continue with the legends, the stories that go along with Varla Ventura on our Cryptid World, which continues right after the break here on Spaced Out Radio. Ooh. That's a nice crystal sound.
Isn't that beautiful? My friend gave this to me. What a nice gift, right?
Yes.
And then you just
Yeah, go ahead.
uh-uh, uh.
I want to say hello to. I know there's a number of new faces and new people listening tonight, especially if you're if you're one of the shift heads from across Canada. After my good friend Shane Hewitt lost his job tonight on the Shift Radio show across Canada, ugly day in radio once again for Canadian talent. And so, if you are joining us from the Shift, welcome. How are you? We kind of do a blend here of our show. It is a hybrid between a live YouTube show, a live podcast, and a live radio show. So we have to take commercial breaks at the bottom and top of the hour um, in order to appease our radio stations that play this show and time everything out. So you get to see the behind the scenes of what we are talking about. Mindy, how are you? Welcome to SOR Chat. There's Mindy. She's a shift head right there. Yeah. And, so we want to make sure that everybody is comfortable. You know, kind of what we're going on around here. We only talk about the weird. We do not talk anything politics. We do not talk anything to do with serious, gross conspiracy theory or anything like that. High Pyramid 7. We got a real nice family home here. And if you have any questions, the people in our chat room with the blue wrenches, they'll be able to help you out. And we're going to have some fun each and every night, 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. 7 days a week. Shift, not shrift. Shift. Yes. So welcome, Mindy. Let's just have a clap for Mindy.
Yay, Mindy.
There you go. Make her feel at home. All right. Yes.
I realized that we won't talk to each other again until after like Christmas. So we should definitely talk about, wells running with blood and stuff on Christmas Eve. It's always good to set the tone.
Yes.
If you'd like.
Of course. Of course. Yes. Oh, you would have loved this small town my son played in last weekend.
Yeah.
It was pretty, I don't know. Hey, Biofuel Brad, another shift head. How you doing, man? From the peg. Well, hey, mosquito season's over. Richard Hauser, how you doing, man? Good to see you. And welcome, Biofuel Brad and Richard Hauser. Took my son to play in this small town called Logan Lake. Okay. Literally, the town's mine is about 18 times larger than the town itself.
Oh.
But the rink is beautiful.
Of course, right?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I'd never been there. Such a clean place for a copper mine town.
Interesting. Yeah.
And the ice was great. They lost 5-3, but hey, we couldn't stop one player who got 4 points.
Often the case at this age, actually.
Yes.
There's one or two that are just, yeah. And if you've got a dynamic goalie, then you can stay in the game. But we are going to a tournament in February at International Falls, which is, we're all bringing our passports so we can go have a drink in Canada.
Well,
but
nice.
It's basically the northernmost town in Minnesota, and we've got non-parent coaches this year because we made a higher level, and so the non-parent coaches are all a bunch of young guys that just came out of their high school and college careers, and they want to go to International Falls. So we're like, all right, you guys pick the tournaments, and so that's one of them.
When I coached hockey, I was a non-parent coach.
Oh, okay. Yeah, of course, right? Yeah.
We played in this tournament out of town, and I walk into my hotel room, and I don't drink, and my tub is full of beer. Like I can't even shower, okay, because the
There's
tub
so
is
much.
full of beer and
Yeah,
ice.
yeah,
It,
it's intense.
yeah.
I am, I would say, a good 10, maybe 15 years older than a lot of the parents.
Hold on
So
one second here, dear. Here we
yeah.
go. Welcome back to the second half hour, Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon, the SOR Space Travelers Club. We continue with Varla Ventura on Our Crypted World. She joins us monthly to talk about the darker side of the paranormal. And because this is her final appearance before Christmas, we're going to get into some of the darker Christmas stories, from Krampus to streams filled with blood. Varla, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we'll keep it fun. All kinds of terrifying things happening around Christmas and winter solstice. But yeah, just to kind of follow up on what you had asked right before. So UFO sightings are really common, but actually there's quite a few. Not everyone calls them Bigfoot, but other kind of Bigfoot and other sort of like strange, moaning, large, hairy creatures are frequently sighted in the greater, like where my parents live is right on the edge of a national forest. So there's thousands of acres of bizarreness there. So and lots of ghosts. So you know who would actually love there to go there is Merle. Merle would love it because it's just it's a gold rush ghost town, but it's not a ghost town, like it's not abandoned. But there's an old firehouse that's haunted. There's a beautiful old hotel that's haunted. There's tunnels that go between one hotel to this other sort of like gentleman's club. And you know what they did in those tunnels? That was where they could sneak the prostitutes without the wives knowing about it and the reporters knowing about it. So there's all kinds of interesting ghosts along those lines. But yeah, so it's a wonderful time of year to start thinking about the dark side, right?
Well, if I could just jump in here, because one of the legends of my old hometown, it wasn't really a legend. It was I grew up my first few years, 7 years. We grew up in this cul-de-sac area, just your typical cul-de-sac with kids running around, street hockey. We had a park separating these two cul-de-sacs, and the park was probably 400, 500 yards long. Okay. And if you were looking towards the other cul-de-sac, on the right, there was this hill of trees and a small park. And on the left, there was this flat area of trees. And behind the trees was tennis courts. And then there was this barbed wire fence on the other side with this hillside. Eventually it got developed, but that's where we tobogganed during the winter. But my sisters, who used to go out at night, because my sisters were 10 and 7 years older than me, they said there was a monster in the forest. They called him the Green Man.
Oh.
And I guess it all started when I guess we were playing, the older kids were playing baseball or something one night, and one of the tennis balls they were using rolled into the forest into some trees, and when they went to pick up the ball, they looked up and there was a green man standing there, right? And so they all ran, and we ran. I was small. I was only like 3 years old at this time, and they picked me up and ran me into the house, and were telling the parents and everything. It was just one of those weird little things. I've never really looked into it. I mean, this is going back almost 45, 46 years now.
Yep.
But it just, I can still remember that. And if I actually liked my sisters, I would actually ask them about it. But I think we're actually a little bit.
Truth comes out.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit beyond. Hey, I hate you, but can you please tell me the story about the green man in the forest on my feet?
Never say never, Dave. Things can change. So
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. There are definitely a few legends kind of more along those lines. I think there were always like certain spots, like there was this trail that we used to go to. We called it Dead Man's Trail. And it was this trail that went kind of basically behind a park and kind of into another park. Which was also located very close to a cemetery where we did, as teenagers, spend quite a bit of time. But we called this trail Dead Man's Trail, and it went down by a creek. And we used to just go down there to, sneak whatever drinks and just cigarettes and stuff. But there were always like sort of various stories about why it was called Dead Man's Trail. Like people just calling it because they thought it was spooky. But I think it was like a holdover from mining days. And I actually think there was probably some kind of like horrible story to it. But like I never thought to question it. I was just like, oh, cool. Dead Man's Trail. It sounds like pirates or whatever. Never really like dug into that too deeply. And but I have a friend that lives there, and he's an archaeologist, and he actually works for the Historical Society now. And so every time I'm back, I'm like, remember that place that everybody used to say was like where people worship Satan or whatever, and then we used to go out there and like party. What's the deal with that place? And then he has like the whole history of it. But that's the same friend, and I have told this story before because it's actually one of the scarier stories that I have in my Paranormal Parlor book. And that's the story. He's the one who has this piece of property where he heard this disembodied sort of moaning that ended up rattling his windows that was then completely truncated, and later found out that there is some. There are, so the Nisinan are the local indigenous people that live in that area. And there are a lot of Nisinan stories about creatures that come out of, there's a beautiful river that runs through there, creatures that come out of the river, some to protect, some to wreak havoc and, cause damage to people who are, disrespecting the area. So there's a lot of lore like that. Well, it's not really lore, it's stories from the people who have lived there much longer than any of the settlers. So those ones I tend to feel are more authentic than the kids saying, oh yeah, somebody hung themselves down on Dead Man's Trail.
Yeah, my hometown has a ghost on this one street near a gravity hill. A few miles up from a gravity hill, there is this lady who will allegedly, she's a lady in white, and if you are parked on the street, she will come and she will take your keys out of your ignition.
Oh.
To make sure that you can't get away. Merle, on his Paranormal Road Trippers, actually YouTube page, actually has a video of this, of them investigating this place up in the mountains of Abbotsford, British Columbia, and it's pretty amazing. But enough about hometowns.
Yeah, I feel like we grew up a little bit in the same hometown, like it's a little bit similar.
Well,
yeah.
That's what brings us to the Hallmark Channel.
Right.
And
Hallmark horror, our new genre. Copyright SOR Radio.
exactly. Let's learn about some of these Christmas legends that you've worked with.
Yes. Well, one of the things that I find most interesting is I think that there is a wonderful storytelling tradition of Christmas ghost stories. And our most well known one, of course, is A Christmas Carol. Interestingly, Charles Dickens, that is not his only Christmas ghost story. That's just the one that made it, hit the big time. That was the big hit. And it's a very relatable story, right? It kind of takes you on this journey of what would happen if I had changed my ways, and it's got a nice moral in there. And it really, but if you've ever read the original story, it plays heavily into the uh, superstitions and beliefs around what was happening around Christmas time in the 12 days of Christmas. And this was believed to be a time when magic and mayhem was very much afoot. And Charles Dickens actually every year would put out this publication. It was sort of a journal, and it was called All Year Round. And it was there was always a Christmas edition, and the Christmas edition would have collections of stories that were Christmas tales, ghost stories. It's actually, probably even predates Victorian times, but it was very popular in Victorian times to tell ghost stories in general, but specifically to tell ghost stories around Christmas time. So that's kind of how, the Christmas Carol was born. But there's one story in particular that Charles Dickens published in this All Year Round as a collection, and it was called like the 1886 edition or something like that. But I always just call it The Haunted House. And it's basically in this, he kind of does this literary trick where he sets the entire journal in this haunted house, and he assigns each of his writer friends. And he was friends with like Wilkie Collins, who has the most, one of the Lady in White is his famous book that was made into a stage play, which is totally about a ghost. So he assigns all of these rooms in this haunted house to different authors, and then they have to sort of channel the ghost of that this imaginary house. And he writes the introduction in which a person takes, of course, for rent, classic ghost story, takes for rent this somewhat moldering house near the sea that has this room which was where all of the sort of bells were from the servants, that were for the servants. It was like a little kind of alcove, and then there would be all these different bells that would show what room would be ringing, which was sort of a thing in the grand houses. And if you've ever seen Downton Abbey, they show that. And I've been to a couple of estates in like Ireland where you can kind of see this like bell system or whatever. So then you would know if the lady who was calling for you, if it was like, whoever. So I guess you had to come running anyway. So all of these rooms or characters are then assigned to his fellow writers, and then they channel this and he compiles this. So this in itself is this really amazing collection of stories, and it's written by one woman who was like the Queen's favorite poet, and she writes this story, and one person writes the point of view from a sea captain, and one person writes a point of view, I think, from like a lamp. It's very creative. So from a like writers and literary point of view, it's very interesting. But what's really particularly fabulous about it is part of his introduction into one of the editions is where he talks about the sort of Christmas being this time of high magic. And we think very much of Halloween as the time when the veil is the thinnest. And we also realize that we are, gradually going into the darkening, right? The darkening of winter. We're not quite there yet. And of course, the veil's thin and things come writhing through and gallivanting around among us. But as we get closer to really the very shortest day of the year and the darkest, longest night, which is the solstice, no coincidence, happens to fall within a few days of the traditional Christmas holiday. There's this period of time when that veil is very thin and it's actually considered not safe to be out. And he actually talks about, and other writers at the time, Elliot O'Donnell was one who writes about, for example, if you are out past midnight on Christmas Eve and you walk by a stable or a large pen, you will be able to hear the animals talk. And
Wow.
you probably don't want to do this because you will soon discover that they are plotting against the humans. 9 times out of 10, they're complaining or plotting against the humans.
Damn humans.
Yeah, another thing he talks about is going to, if you are out on Christmas Eve or any of the days of Christmas around this time, if you're out after dark and say you should go to the well to draw water for the house, if you wait too long and you go out too late at night, especially if you go out close to midnight in those 2 or 3 days leading up to Christmas, you are very likely to draw buckets of blood rather than fresh, cool water. So there's all kinds of very interesting things like that. Not just like, oh, let's stay around the hearth and tell stories, but like kind of really scary things. Like, yeah, I don't hear about anybody going out on Halloween night. I mean, you're getting offerings and you're burning fires and you're trying to make sure like the witches don't steal you away. But you're not worried about like your household water actually being blood and serving that to your children. So there's definitely some like warning things that happen around that time. It's also believed to be a time when you can actually commune with the dead. And again, Victorian times, that was extremely popular, as we know, with the spiritualist movement. That was so popular that it became a regular household occurrence. The paranormal parlor games, which I've written extensively about. Those are, using the Ouija board and the spirit board. So you can kind of see that connection with, the ghosts of Christmas and talking about the ghosts. And I also think, I mean, there's dozens of other traditions and we'll get into those, but these are some of the things that sort of, it startled me actually to think of. I knew and I know about a lot of creepy creatures that are out there, gnashing their teeth and snarling in the woods, waiting for the children. But I hadn't really thought about it as a like time of high magic. So if you are aware of that, you can actually probably use that to your advantage. But there are a lot of dangers out there, like, just running into something that, there's like this one really horrific thing, the Callan Crozot, I think it is. And it's like this, it's seen in Greece a lot and also other parts of like the southern Mediterranean. And he's this like really, really vicious demon guy that lives underground most of the time. And he comes out during the 12 days of Christmas and comes forth to basically absolutely wreak havoc on man, woman, and child, and especially on children. So again, don't go out during the 12 days of Christmas. It's kind of a repeated warning.
That's when I do most of my shopping.
Well, and the interesting thing is, so you could make the argument that a lot of these things, and like certainly there's quite a few in Iceland and other Nordic countries that are, you can see North America, you can see this like a cautionary tale element of it, like don't wander around cold at night because you actually could die of hypothermia. And yeah, it gets cool in the Mediterranean, and sure, if you stayed out all night, there are occasions when the temperatures dip fairly low, but to see these kind of like sort of demonic entities coming forth at this time of year and really like embracing that that sort of evil element of mankind. And you see that in places where snow isn't really a factor. It really kind of gives you some perspective on, there's just so many cultures that have these sort of counterparts to the joy and light of Christmas. But you know,
Go ahead. We got 4 minutes.
I just think there's a lot of pressure on people now, as there always has been, to suck it up and be happy and embrace the joy of Christmas. And so I think that because you have it's much more realistic to recognize that there are struggles and there are dangers and there are things to kind of like, collectively war against this time of year. I think it can be a very bonding and healing thing, but also not that there's like, misery loves company necessarily, but kind of more along the lines that you don't feel so bad for not feeling good, if you know what I mean. Like if, you've got the blues, you're supposed to go out and like, cure that with shopping and, have all of this joy. And even you can even look at like some of our most popular Christmas movies, like It's a Wonderful Life, which is a retelling of a Christmas Carol, and there's totally ghosts involved in that. He's totally depressed at Christmas. And so there's something like really balancing about recognizing the dark side instead of forcing yourself into the light that can actually help you cope with the darkness. That's my belief anyway. And I think that's why these creatures exist and why these stories exist. We do ourselves a great service to keep telling them.
That is awesome. 2.5 minutes to go before we have to go to break. At the top of the hour, Varla Ventura is our guest. We hear about Krampus.
Yeah.
That's probably, in my opinion, the most annoying one. Are there any?
Oh, come on. He's so cute.
No, he's ugly. He's
I love
ugly.
Krampus.
Not me. Why do you like him?
Oh, he's just so ferocious and demonic. I mean, what's not to like? Really, he's just like, you see these like Krampus parades, and they're just like these absolutely hideous creatures. There's a market near me here that they do like a traditional sort of like German Christmas market, and there's a Krampus that walks through there, and it's not like a predicted thing. It's like all of a sudden this terrifying 7 foot tall, completely covered in skins and fur and chains and crazy carved face and horns, and all of a sudden this thing is just there, and there's like no warning, and the children scatter. It's amazing. I mean, that happened, completely terrified my son, and then I was kind of bummed because I couldn't like check out the Krampus too much because he was scared. But there are here, let me get the right name for it. It's I have a note here about this other demon guy. He is the Calan Cancero. The Calan Cancero. That's how I would say it. And he's kind of a similar sort of goaty monster, but he's the one who lives underground and is most common in Southern Europe. And really, he'll come and just trash your house and cause absolute mayhem. He is thought to bring sort of some death and destruction. So your best bet is to kind of, put on the Yule log, stoke the hearth fire, and make sure that you are not, that your doors are locked basically, and that your children are snug in their beds at night during that period of time.
I love it. When we come back, we will take some audience questions because, we love getting the audience involved.
Yes, love your audience.
So, we will start taking some audience questions. And if you're in our YouTube chat, make sure you go and type them in capital letters. We'd really appreciate it. It helps me out in seeing everything. And of course, Varla with a brand new book contract talking about plants and monsters.
I'll
Yeah.
make it work. I'll tie them in. You'll see.
I'm sure you will. If anybody can do it, you can do it. VarlaVentura.net is her website where you can find her books there or at any major bookstore across North America. This is Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We're so glad to have all of you here with us tonight on the show. Let's do it again right after this break for hour number 2. Stay tuned. We will be right back. Varley.
So
Debbie, welcome.
our ledges line up again. You see that? My
They did.
ledge goes right to your ledge.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, we
Deborah
didn't even
Norsworthy,
coordinate that.
how are you? Yes. You're always about the ledges. Operation Shutdown, how you doing?
I do love a
All
good
right.
ledge.
You do like a good ledge.
It's so handy for books and candles.
You got that right. I'm going to put you in the green room. I'm going to take a quick break.
Yeah.
Be right back, okay? Be right back, people. All right. I am back. Hello. There's Varla. Well, the picture of her when her hair was purple. Now it's blonde. She's in her material world phase right now. Of course the chair moved. I just sat in it. Excuse me. Your microphone's on mute.
Hi.
Who's jumped here since we left? Algaray over on Twitch. How you doing, buddy? All right. Want to remind everybody that May 10th through 12th, 2024, it is the third annual SOR fan party in Reno, Nevada at the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort. Everyone is invited. We're going to bring a bunch of fun people there that you see on this show, except Varla, because that's Mother's Day weekend, and she's going to be good and hang out with her son. And I don't blame her for that, but she'll be there for 2025. Guaranteed.
Yeah, just don't make it on Mother's Day weekend.
No, it will not be on Mother's Day weekend. Promise you. Tickets are $100. You get a VIP package. You get a free radio show, a ghost tour with Merle,
Oh,
and a
so sad to
Skywatch,
miss that.
and a Skywatch with Melinda Leslie.
Awesome.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you check it out on our website. info@spacedoutradio.com is where you sign up. Here we go with hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Jetivator. Jetivator is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio, Instagram @SpacedOutRadio Show, and you can join us on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. We continue on tonight with Varla Ventura, our Crypted World. It happens here each month as Varla joins us for the spooky and strange sides of the paranormal. We welcome her. You can find all of her books at any major bookstore or on her website, varlaventura.net. Varla, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We got into a little bit of Christmas lore over the last half hour. And this half hour, we will get into some audience questions as they start to come on in. But I want to ask you regarding 2023, because this is the last time. Well, we'll talk to you next month. But
yeah. Right before New Year's, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any stories this year that kind of blew your mind?
Oh, sorry. I got scared about what month it was. Yeah, well, yes. I have a bit of a dark mind, as you may know. So there were, some of the stories that really freaked me out were not necessarily paranormal stories. However, there was a very exciting development in the Loch Ness Monster. The Nessie was seen rippling through the waters one day after my friend and I were there. So I don't know if anyone's there's this whole plot in Outlander where she's basically kind of a witch, and she goes up to the water and the monster shows itself, and she kind of tells the guy, "Oh, calm down," and then everybody thinks she's a witch, and ultimately they try and burn her. So we were joking and saying, "Oh, well, we were calling for it, and we were in the little castle right there on the shores where the cam is." So we didn't see Nessie, but Nessie, there were like multiple Nessie sightings. It was like the first week of April, and they were literally like, we were still in the Highlands during that time. So I was following that story because that was very exciting. And then there's just been a couple of very interesting, like, there was like this woman who served mushrooms to her family, and she like basically kind of like killed her in-laws. But mysteriously, she and her children ate something different at this dinner, and her ex-husband was also supposed to attend this dinner, and so he didn't. But he had been having gastrointestinal issues in the previous dinners that he'd attended, and she was trying to make peace. So I found that to be, in the like dark botanical lore side of things, I found that to be very interesting, is like writings on the wall. So obviously a poisoning. So, I mean, but I think, some of the Loch Ness stuff was very interesting to me. I feel like it's been a particularly long year. Like things have changed so much, just even in my life since January 1st. I mean, I know there have been like probably much more significant developments than, lake monsters and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, those are, I assume that's what you were referring to, kind of like news stories. Yeah, like big.
Yeah.
I also sort of feel like I'm suffering from, short-term memory loss. So
That's because of all the paranormal spells you put on.
Yeah, well, you just got to focus on what's in front of you at the time. It's a survival skill, right? When you're having a paranormal encounter, you're not thinking like, "Oh, in 6 months I'll write about this." You're thinking like, "This is not happening." So,
yeah, my favorite story of 2023 would have been when we were doing some filming in the forests here in British Columbia, and the 7 of us, heard a very loud, distant roar in the
ooh,
background.
nice.
And it went on for about 15, 20 seconds. And it stayed in the exact same pitch as when it started till it ended and started, flailing on down. I don't know how far this thing was away from us. I could say, in my estimation, it was a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
The free range cattle that were in between this roar and us started going crazy with their mooing. And it was pretty surreal to have that happen, in the middle of the forest, and to have so many witnesses, because
That's
everybody,
significant.
yeah, everybody was like, "What is that? What is that?" And I knew what it was. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
"That's Sasquatch. That is Sasquatch. That's why we're out here filming."
How gratifying, Dave. Very gratifying.
That was pretty cool. I can't get into publicly what happened next.
Ooh.
A few minutes later, but
okay.
I will say this.
I'm intrigued.
I hope it comes out on tape.
Wow. Yeah.
And if it doesn't, I will break the news next year.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to eventually, you'll have to tell us that. I'll remind you in 6 months.
Please.
I guess like along those lines, if you're like, as far as like this wasn't like a news headline or anything, but I did see what I believe was the Kilkenny witch when I was in Kilkenny, Ireland. There is a old legend of a woman who was accused of witchcraft. And I went to her name was Alice Kettler, and I went to Kettler's Inn, and I saw this very strange kind of like misty thing, and no one else around. I was looking, did you see that? Did you see that? No one else saw it. And I did get a couple pictures, but the pictures aren't fabulous. But it was one of those situations where I just don't, like, in that moment, I saw it and kept staring at it and kept kind of thinking, like, I basically saw this, like, disembodied mist. And I just kept thinking, because I'm a very paranormal person. I call myself a supernaturalist, but a lot of my experiences have been audio or like, physical touching and things like that. I haven't had as many visual manifestations. I've had a few, but not as many. Like, some people tell stories of, seeing like this whole thing, like kind of, following them down the hall and stuff. And for me, it's always been a little bit more out of the corner of the eye. And I've felt more things, more, physical presence of something sitting on the bed and things of that nature. So, and I think it's very common to, when you are in the midst of an experience that kind of is paranormal, that sort of defies what you think you should be seeing, defies ration, you actually, like, for many of us, this sort of very rational side kicks in, and you kind of try and convince yourself that you're not seeing this thing, even though your instincts might be saying something else. You kind of convince yourself that you're not seeing something unusual. But then when you think about it later, and also I think that's why I'm never scared, because I'm too busy trying to process just visually and emotionally what's happening. And so then, I'm not particularly scared in that moment, but then, like, kind of later I'm thinking about it, and it's like, oh yeah, there's definitely something in that house, maybe I'll be a little more, quiet when I go back there, whatever. So I was in this inn and having dinner with my son in this beautiful Kilkenny. Is just the most beautiful medieval town in Ireland, and the home of hurling. It's just absolutely fabulous. And yes, we went to this inn, and we were just sort of sitting there, and it's very cool. Like, they honor her as a witch. They've got a depiction of her as a witch, and the story's kind of brutal though, because basically she was accused of witchcraft, and she was, going to be killed. And she knew some people because she was a fairly wealthy woman, mysteriously had several husbands die. We don't know, she's not here to defend herself, so we don't know what happened there. But she had, I think, been married 3 times and had inherited all of their money. And so she had, a good deal of property. And that was very common to, oh, you've got property, I want it, you're a woman, you're worth less, so you're a witch. That was basically the whole fuel behind the witch craze. So she was accused of witchcraft, and she knew some people who, under cover of night, got her out of town, and she sort of disappeared. We don't know exactly what happened to her, changed her name and kind of disappeared. But unfortunately, her, her maid was held responsible because she was supposed to have known what this woman was up to with all the poisonings and witchcraft that she was doing. And so this poor maid was actually the first woman, I believe she was the first woman killed as a witch, tried and killed as a witch, if you can actually say trial, right, in all of Ireland. So it was kind of a very significant thing. So anyway, that was where I saw the misty thing, and it was back by the kitchen. It was back by the hearth. So maybe it was the poor maid who, we don't know. There's so many questions to that story, but yeah, so that was a really cool thing that happened. That was in March of 2023. Because, I was looking back at photos and just thinking, my God, I went so many places, and I went Vegas in May. I felt like I was like traveling every month. So it was amazing.
Oh, wow. Yeah. The traveling is just amazing sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. I do love it. And I love to plan the next, my next big plot, Transylvania. Never been, always wanted to go.
I think for me,
SOR tour company, like we could launch this. This could go right along with our,
it could.
Christmas horror, like a whole enterprise here, Dave.
If everything goes as planned for us in 2024 and everything goes good, I see us, myself, Merle, and Samantha Mowat, hopping on a motor home and going into all of these small little areas, because that, to me, like, I love seeing the world. I love the world stories. I've never traveled outside of North America. Okay. I'm a homebody, put it that way. Not just the way my life has gone. Okay. But one thing that interests me is all of these small towns that have their stories.
Mhm.
And the smaller the towns, the better, because new people move into those small towns to get away from the big cities, and they don't learn the legends and the lore of the town. Like, there's towns in British Columbia where they're literally ghost towns, where it's a
Yeah.
legend that demons have chased out the forestry workers or the miners of that area. And literally the buildings are just sitting there doing nothing.
If I
You know?
lived in a town like that, I would so fuel the demon thing just so I had the whole town to myself.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, that you don't want to live there. That's yeah, that place is evil. There's
Yeah.
a town like that. Actually it's the closest quote unquote town to where my family, my parents and my brother and sister still live there. And it's actually inside a national park now, or a state park, excuse me. And it is totally like people do live there and have homes that they've had for homesteads for a few generations, so a century or so. But it's totally like a ghost town, but it's kind of within a park, so it's preserved. And like once a year they do official days, and you can go and walk into the saloon and get a sarsaparilla and like kind of go to the general store and order things. And but also you can learn about the different cultures of miners that were there. And it's an old mining town, and those are the towns full of ghosts because they came in, they completely just raked the land. There was so much desperation, there was so much clawing for success, and so much like anguish and pain. And then they were gone, leaving the scarred earth behind, and a few entrepreneurs who thought of something different to do. So there's I mean, there and all kinds of there's horrifying mining deaths, right? Like just absolutely brutal stories of oh gosh, just really really if you're claustrophobic, those are not the stories for you. Cave-ons and cave-ins, and just like really really kind of brutal, constant, not to mention claim jumping and just knocking. I mean, you could just murder someone. You want their stuff, you just kill them. It was like absolute mayhem. So no wonder there's so many residual ghosts in that, in areas like that. And so there is a tiny little town like that, and I'll give you directions to it. I'll give you and Merle directions to it, but maybe we can meet there one day.
I'm there. I'm there. When you look at stories, going back, maybe a century or so, maybe 2 centuries ago in North American legend, which ones really sit with you? Which ones really, pique your interest? I mean, I'm not talking Bigfoot or Dogman or anything. I know you love the smaller, the more devious ones.
Yes. Well, I love all deviousness in all of its forms. Actually, one of the things that I find particularly fascinating, and we sort of like touched on this earlier, even just with like the telling of ghost stories and the obsession with ghosts, is there are so many incredible stories associated with the spiritualist movement, which was the idea, basically a practicing religious idea, that we could communicate with the dead usually via a medium and some kind of implement. And not only that we could communicate with the dead, but that the dead had something to tell us, the living, that they could tell us something about the other side, that they could tell us good life lessons, things to hold on to, that they could solve some of those mysteries. And this was frequently done with a spirit board, at a seance or a Ouija board. And there are so many incredible stories. And in particular, I'm particularly fascinated by some of the women that rose out of this spiritualist movement and found occupations that they would not otherwise have found. Because if you think about it, we're talking about 1840 to maybe like 1930 when it was really at its peak. And to be clear, spiritualism still exists today. It's kind of the foundation for much of our, what we once called the New Age movement, and now is just sort of, like our general woo. But the idea that we can get messages from the beyond and that things are interconnected. And there are just all of these incredible stories. I actually started finally recording some of these stories. This was a book idea. I put a chapter in my book about some of these women. But then I had so much more to say. So I actually just started recording this thing called Midnight Stories with Varla Ventura. And it's basically sort of retelling, I've written the stories of these women. It won't all only be just these women, but for example, women at the time, you had very, very few options. So you could marry well. That was kind of your goal. Even if you went to school, you would probably just like teach for a while or something until you married, whether you wanted to or not. And or you could enter a life of servitude. That was always an option. Or you could become a lady of the night. If you were particularly talented, you might be able to get away with being like a singer or a dancer or something like that. But even then, you were kind of marginal if you were in the like burlesque thing. You could become very marmish, you could become a nun, but really like nothing too exciting. So you really had very limited options, and they were generally controlled by, your father, your brother, or your husband. And so spiritualism was dominated by women. And it was dominated by women who were very successful at what they were doing and were making their own money without their husbands, or without husbands at all, or without the money of their husbands. The Fox sisters were kind of the first to do that. But then it continued on with many, many different women where they were able to sort of really break the confines of what was expected of them in Victorian society and become, we were talking about a time where there really weren't that many women who were even authors. And if you were an author, you probably wrote children's bedtime stories. And if you weren't writing children's bedtime stories, you wrote under a male pen name. So it was not, I'm not saying there weren't famous authors. Maybe you were a poet. Women could be poets, but you couldn't just be a writer in the same way that men were afforded to. And so there were women who were channeling entities and becoming famous authors. And a woman, the next episode I recorded is all about this woman who channeled an entire novel from the ghost of Mark Twain. So that aspect of the paranormal is very interesting to me, because there's a lot on the historic record, but a lot of the historic record is written from a very cynical point of view. And I'm a believer. So when I'm looking at it, I'm trying to look at it as objectively as possible, but I'm seeing some vilification of some, pointing the finger and calling them witches, even in the modern literature about them today. So I'm just trying to kind of shed some light on that. And that's a particular, I find that just, it's so interesting. And it really ties in. You see all of these, I don't know. It changed history. And it's crazy to think that the paranormal and the belief in talking to the dead could change history, but it did. It absolutely did.
It really did. When did people start getting vilified for talking to the dead?
I mean, always, especially if you were a woman, you were vilified to a certain extent in many cultures, unless you were lucky enough to be revered as a like channeler or saint or seer of some kind. But I think that the spiritualist movement, it really like hit its big peak it was most popular in the United States, existed in Canada, Australia, existed in Europe and England in particular. But it was like all things American, just completely extreme when it took hold here. And that was really like around the Civil War era. You had Mary Todd Lincoln in the White House doing seances. And so you had a figurehead who was not calling herself a spiritualist, but identifying with it.
We got Varla Ventura for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio on the Spiritual You. Make that our cryptid world. VarlaVentura.net is her website. You can find all of her books there or at any major bookstore. We'll be back with the next half hour right after this. Hi, Ryan Hultman. I will ask that. We got a few questions coming into the next half hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Just
great.
Peachy.
Should I read ahead? So
Read ahead.
I kind of like having no idea. I love audience questions.
I know you do.
I kind of like having like no idea and then just, it's like playing a game in a way, right? It's like, I don't see any all caps here, so just gonna go with it. I do like reading your chats though. They're I don't like I don't like having it on while I'm talking to you because I'm not a great multitasker. I get distracted really easily.
I'm always watching.
Yeah, you can do that, but you've also, I think, trained yourself to do that. By the way, I totally remember Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio. I totally remember it. I was on so many shows for like the Book of the Bizarre and Beyond Bizarre. Oh my God, I can't even remember.
Call in 10 minutes before showtime.
Oh my God, I can't even remember what year these books came out, but it was all Blog Talk Radio for all of these. The
River Dog, how you doing, buddy?
2010 Beyond Bizarre and the Book of the Bizarre I think it was 2008, which is insane to me. It was so long ago. And actually, the first interview I ever did for any book I had ever written was Coast to Coast. And I was so terrified. I was like, really? I like talk about frying pan fire, it's just like and back then, like in 2008, if you were on Coast to Coast, your book sales like went up really high. Not so much the case anymore because people they just get the information as they get it and then they look things up, so but it used to be you'd go on Coast to Coast and your book would shoot up to #1 on Amazon for a while and you try and take a picture. Didn't always translate to book sales, but it was a very fun. It was fun. Fun indeed. There's a great book. Do you know about this book? Do you know who Jeff Bellinger is, right?
We got him coming on in a week or so.
Oh, he's wonderful. And he wrote a book called The Fright Before Christmas. And he's all about like he knows way more than he's done a lot more research than I have about not just all these creatures, but he also like I think you know this, right? Like I was raised as a complete heathen, but he was raised Catholic. So he actually knows like a lot more religious history than I do. And yeah, he's wonderful. That'll be fun. I'll tune into that for sure. Yeah. He's all about the creatures and the where they came from. And I just ordered that book. I don't know. Did he send you a copy? No,
not yet.
Yeah, I just ordered that book because it looks beautiful, and actually, same publisher. We have the same publisher now.
Oh,
so
nice.
So that publisher, hopefully, they told me, have you seen The Fright Before Christmas? That's the style we want to do your book in. And I was like, I hadn't seen it, but I had seen the description of it, and I'd seen some videos of Jeff opening the pages, and I was like, It's got a ribbon. I am in. Like, I don't even care. You don't even have to say anything else. Like, where do I sign? That sounds great.
It's all about the ribbon.
Well, I mean, look at this though, Dave. Like, these are right. This is the size that they are. They're little 5x7s. They're not super big, and they're beautiful books. I've always been fortunate enough to get flaps. That's like a fancy thing. So I've always had a little, like, they've treated them very beautifully, and I appreciate that because there's a little magic in every book. But there was like there's a Canadian edition of the Book of the Bazaar that was published by, was like a proprietary thing, and that's in hardcover. But it was after the fact,
I'm gonna go look for it.
Yeah, you could probably find it in like a thrift store now, like it's...
Then I'll autograph it and send it back to you.
You know what? I said years ago, if I find my own book in a thrift store and it is just like worn to hell, that to me as an author is going to be a huge win. Now, that was before I understood how little money you get on each book.
Right.
Oh, pittance of royalties. Yeah.
Hold on one second. A big thank you to T-Bone ×2 and Echo and Foxy Joe for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. All right, we continue on with Varla Ventura. VarlaVentura.net is her website as we take a look at all the spooky and strange stories from 2023 and beyond. Varla, welcome back.
Thank you.
Start off with DB Nobody. Do you know what the dark shadow blobs are? I've caught some on video.
Well, I would love to see that video. I mean, I've seen dark shadow blobby things that I think are like, I just thought they were ghosts, or like kind of the tail end of ghosts. I don't really know. I mean, there's a lot of talk of shadow people. That's been a very sort of buzzword for the last, like maybe 9-10 years or so. Shadow people, but I have heard of shadow people long before I'd heard of shadow people, and I had witnessed shadow people. So those were kind of like shadowy blobs. I guess I have this kind of, maybe it's a completely fictitious view of it, but I have this idea of, the world, the other world, the paranormal world, the world of ghosts, just like the world of the living. Not everybody's a great communicator, right? And everybody's kind of like trying to get a message through, or trying to, maybe not everybody, but if you are trying to do that, you may not quite have it mastered. You may not, some people can pull off a full manifestation that's talking and looks like a person. Other things manifest as a person that isn't a person. So there's all kinds of like crazy entities out there. But I kind of feel like the dark shadow blob things are just like a really good effort on the part of another, it's like, it's not quite, like, it doesn't quite, you can't quite put your finger on what it is, but you know that it's not normally there. I think it's hard to capture that stuff because It's sort of a, mysterious entity that, doesn't, I think we have this like misnomer of ghosts like appearing as like these pale versions of a human, or as this very shimmering kind of ethereal thing. And for some people that might be the case. And I've certainly seen, all manner of, all varieties. So I think there's a wide variety of what I would just call ghosts, or entities. And I think shadow blobs, I think we should just run with that term. Enough with shadow people. Let's coin the term shadow blobs. Like that. I think we should just go with that. Yeah. Shadow blobs. We own the night. Why not?
Could be the name of your next book, Shadow Blobs. Varla Ventura.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, let's move on to another question from our audience here. And let's go to, let's see here. Let's go to Debbie Nickerson. Why don't people believe us?
Because they're jerks. I do think that that's a tale as old as time, right? There are people who see things, experience things, know things, and then there are people who think they know things. And there's always a conflict there, right? So I think for many people, like, you do have people who are open-minded and haven't had an individual experience, but are like willing to explore that. And you also have people who've had experiences who are very skeptical. But, if they believed us, then they'd be one of us. So there you go. I think it's growing. I think it's definitely more. You certainly have to like consider the company, right? And who you're with. But it's certainly more socially acceptable to talk about hauntings or strange experiences. I think when you get into the world of other creatures, cryptids, when you kind of get into like, UFOs, like I think there's plenty of people that believe that, but I think that there's a general societal bias against that. And I've certainly experienced that myself, even within the paranormal community. Oh yeah, I'll write about ghosts, but don't even talk to me about mermaids, right? So it's like mermaids and Bigfoot kind of get thrown out with the bathwater. So yeah, it's kind of the nature of being right.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I can totally
right?
see it. Let's go to Ryan. Doesn't the Bible tell us not to speak to the dead or deal with mediums and the sort?
Well, unfortunately, I have never read the Bible in its entirety, except for one night when I was rather high. I highlighted wherever women appeared in it, and I don't know what I was going for there. But I was not raised with the Bible, so I'm not super knowledgeable. However, I do know from reading other works that there's actually quite a bit of ghost correspondence in the Bible. They're constantly talking to disembodied voices. It's not just God. There's other channeling. There's channeling going on all the time. And so I think we run into that idea of like, what do you call God and what do I call God a little bit? I think there's some modern interpretations. Certainly the King James Version is probably a good example of one that calls out like seers and witches. But you have to remember that this is an ancient text that was not only rewritten and reinterpreted through different languages, but also through the lens of a king who had a very specific agenda. And again and again and again, this happened until we have the version that's commonly available today. There's many versions. So, while that may well be true, to what end? Like, there's absolutely prophets. What's the difference between a prophet and a medium? They're prophesizing the future. They're looking into the future. And interestingly, the spiritualist movement was not at war in direct, didn't really clash with people who also attended church. For Christians or Catholics, it was not in contrast with, like, it wasn't like at odds with it. You could go to a seance on a Saturday and go to church on Sunday. And unless you were of like a particularly pious, point of view, you weren't, or belonged to a very like pious sect, it wasn't considered like blasphemy or wrong to be trying to communicate with, your lost son. Of course, the template that the church would want would be that there's some solace of like, that they're in heaven, not just in this other world. There's always going to be like different words for these other places, but it wasn't necessarily considered to be like good versus evil. You go to a seance, you're evil. You go to church, you're good. It wasn't really, that wasn't as that's part of the reason it was so popular. It was so common for people to attend seances, like whether you believed or didn't believe. It was like going to the movies, quite frankly. So
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can totally see that.
How fun, right?
Let's go to Neil. Have you ever heard the story of the Peebles witches?
I don't think I have heard of the Peebles witches. No. Gotta like tell us. You should tell us that story.
I'm looking it up right now.
Peebles.
A Christmas Eve Nightmare, Peebles, in 1629.
Uh-oh. That was not a good year for witches.
No.
I can tell you right now, this is going to be a bad.
Oh, this is a pretty long, intense story here.
And in the end, they killed the witches?
Oh, let me check. Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Okay, I know I was kind of jumping to conclusions there, but it's with some degree of knowledge that's usually how the story ends. I'll read up on that because I'm not familiar with that, but I'll look into it. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, they killed the witches. Mm-hmm.
When in doubt, witch it out.
Yeah.
When in doubt, witch it out.
Yeah.
Looks like we're done with audience questions for right now.
All right then.
But
let's talk about witches some more.
Just a few. What do you think of seances? Have you ever participated in one?
But of course, I love seances. I think that seances can be performed extraordinarily irresponsibly. I've participated in some irresponsible seances. And I think it's like to me, a seance is really, it is an act of magic. It is a spiritual thing that happens. You don't enter into it lightly. You take certain precautions and protection. But it's a ritual, and it's connecting with the dead. It's connecting with the ancestors, and it has to be done with reverence and respect. That doesn't mean you have to believe. You can go in there with your arms crossed and be like, man, no, I don't believe any of this. That's totally fine. As long as you're going at it with, with respect. You're not disrespecting people who are conducting it. You can absolutely go into a seance with a completely cynical point of view and leave with a cynical point of view. But the seances that I've attended that have actually been effective have been the ones that were really treated more ritualistically. And there's not very many people that I really would do that with, because I think you can get, if you're a sensitive person or an empath at all, in a situation like that is really trying to invoke the dead and make contact, you can be you can be put yourself in a very vulnerable situation. And so that, you choose your company wisely for that. You really, like, even in the apex of the spiritualist movement, there was always a medium or a someone who was the conduit for spirit. It wasn't just a random person sitting around. There was someone conducting it. There was someone orchestrating it, and also sort of like really being the channel that the spirit would come through. And that person was mentally and physically prepared to take on that challenge. if you're not mentally and physically prepared to take on that challenge, don't be the medium, but make sure there's a responsible conduit there. Because things can just come through you, but with a responsible medium that can kind of see warning signs or things that maybe shouldn't be coming through, or people getting sick or things like that, they can take place. But yeah, I haven't attended. I really ought to attend a larger seance sometime soon. It's been years really since I've attended a good seance.
How do you do them?
So, I mean, everybody has a slightly different method for how they actually contact the spirit. That's probably the biggest discrepancy. Some people scry, other people use a Ouija board or a spirit board. Some people do automatic writing or simply channel and verbalize what they're experiencing. There are other, there's pendulum. There's all kinds of ways to actually make that the intangible world visible to the tangible world. So that's what you need in a seance, right? So you need like a cup or a board or something that's kind of conveying that message. So you've got to have that, and then you need ideally more than, you can do it with 3 people, you can do it with 2. I've done it with 2. It's good to have a few more people if you can trust those people. Again, they don't have to be believers at all. They can be completely cynical. They just can't be rude, right? They can't be rude. They can't be jerks. They can think rude things, of course, like I don't believe any of this, but you can't have somebody that is just like, I mean, if they're there and they're willing to be there, because someone coerced them into it or whatever, that's enough. And then essentially, like, it's like any ritual, really, Dave. You set the tone. You usually prepare the room in advance if you're the medium. So the medium will have a room prepared that's been cleansed, and they've properly like sort of prepared themselves mentally and physically, whether that's like a ritual bath or candles or whatever. You got to have candles. No good seance was ever done without a wide array of real candles. And then you need human contact. So people generally, like, they will touch hands, or everyone's hands will go onto the same table, or something kind of along those lines. And then you start, you sort of drop into the whoever's conducting. Again, like, it's kind of like if you've ever attended like a public ceremony of any kind, especially like a witch ceremony, it's very much like that. It's like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're gonna ask for spirit to come through, yada yada yada. But if you're attending one and they're asking you, do you have someone, you don't always know who's going to come through. So you can't, a lot of people attend seances hoping that someone in particular will come through, but you have no, you don't know, because you just don't know who's going to come through. And if you have a trustworthy person who you feel is a legitimate medium, then you can enter. And if not, you just think of it as like a really, really interesting social experiment.
Varla, we have about 6 minutes to go here with you, and hard to believe the time continues to fly on by with you. It really does. When you look at everything that you have written about, what subject would you like to cover more of? Is it more like I look at stories like gargoyles. I want gargoyles to be real, where at certain times of the year, in their own protection for their own deity, they are ripping through the concrete that holds them and flying off to swarm
I
attack.
love gargoyles. Yes, gargoyles. Yes, the protector spirits of all buildings. They're gnomes, really, in their own right. They're the gnomes of the sky. Banshees. That's my final answer. I have a book that talks about banshees, werewolves, and vampires and other creatures of the night. I honestly believe you could dedicate an entire book to banshees. not just and the counterparts of the banshees around the world, because a banshee, for anyone who's not familiar, is sort of a warning ghost in a way, straddles the world between the fairies and the ghosts. It's kind of that other world. Traditionally, a banshee means of the fairy mound in Irish. So I feel like there's Irish banshees, and then there are the equivalent of banshees in cultures around the world. And these are things that appear and warn you of terrible things about to come, usually death, and usually accompanied by some kind of horrifying, mournful cry. Or an appearance of almost always a woman, and frequently like some sort of like bathing and blood involved. So there's just so many. I mean, La Llorona is a counterpart to the banshee. So there's just so many, and I feel that if I could convince a publisher that someone would buy an entire volume just about banshees. Yeah, but that to me is just an endlessly. I mean, I would love to travel the world asking people, here's a definition. What's it? What is this? Does this exist for you? Like, what's traditional in your culture? That in Italy, there's the woman in white who appears in like these particular castles, and she's this ghostly woman that appears right before somebody's going to die. People inherit banshee. There's just it's endless. It's really, really endless. And there's also an incredible amount of beautifully written literature on it. So that's fun, because it's actually something that you can find stories about in the written folkloric record that are relatively that are well written and respectful of the people telling them. So
Very true.
banshees for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Are gargoyles good? Are they protectors?
Oh yeah. Gargoyles are totally good. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love gargoyles. I have gargoyles. Gargoyles to me are sort of like the building guardians, the stone guardians. Usually they're depicted on, like, actually, Dave, I'll tell you in more detail, and I have photos one time, but in sometime when we're together, but I saw the best gargoyles I've ever seen were on the top of the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. And that's the closest I've ever gotten to a real gargoyle. And I'll tell you, I didn't want to leave that rooftop.
I bet.
Pretty incredible. It was pretty incredible. But they serve a protection of a building. And this is very common in architecture and in folklore, to work symbols and creatures into a building. In fact, a castle I went to in Ireland has this horrific, beastly depiction of something absolutely, like, I won't even get into what it's depicting. But what I learned is that often people would put in architecture something very grotesque, and that was actually to kind of like ward off anything that was demonic and grotesque, because it would see that and it would just be like, oh, you got this territory? Okay, well, I'll just keep going and go on to something else. Or that it was so grotesque that even the grotesque was turned away from it. And so out of that, I think those like really sort of hideous gargoyles, which are kind of humanish and kind of dragonish and also baddish in their own, they're their own entity, right?
Right.
Beautiful, but they have a sort of like humanoid like quality to them. And maybe a little hard to love if you like a certain chiseled type of angel, but
Definitely not Old Navy.
I do. I love a good gargoyle. Yeah, but that's the other element of it, is putting something to ward off the worst thing that could come along. And gargoyles certainly serve that purpose, especially things that might be descending from the sky. And they were on churches all the time. So kind of interesting to think of that, right? Like these sort of somewhat demonic things on the cathedral rooftops. It's pretty amazing.
We got 45 seconds for you, Varla. Let everybody know where they can find your books and more information about you.
Yes, you can visit my website. It's varlaventura.net, or find me on Facebook, where I usually try and update what I'm up to. You can search up Midnight Stories with Varla Ventura, and it'll appear in all of the podcast things. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to. And then my books are all in bookstores and all the places. And they're not
Major
sold out, I don't
bookstores.
think. Yeah, all the major bookstores and all the
All the
independent
major
bookstores. Always good. Yeah.
And remember, if you find an old one that's been raggedy and tattered, send it to Varla.
Yeah. You can.
She
Yeah,
wants that.
you know.
Varla, thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you. Happy
Oh,
holidays.
thank you. Happy holidays. Thanks, Dave.
We'll talk
Love
after
you.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Love you too, dear. Coming up next, Among the Missing with Steve Stockton. Then Robin Haynes will be here with the Crypted Report. It's Dave 101 night. We're going to go back in time. And the strange news of the week. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we are clear.
Yay. Oh, thanks, Dave. That was lovely.
You're very welcome.
I feel like it's been a really long time since we've talked, even though it's only been a month.
I know.
Sometimes it feels like that. Yeah. Well, it's a long month.
Like it. Dave don't like it.
I know. Yeah, it's a shame.
You go to bed though and have some fun.
What?
You go to bed though and have some fun listening to the rest of us.
Oh yeah, I'm able. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I go and I put it on my phone just to, because I feel disconnected. It's like all of a sudden I'm dropped and I'm not part of it anymore. It makes me feel sad.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I do have to get up and do it all over again tomorrow. So,
Thank
you.
We'll talk soon, dear.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye. Varla Ventura, everybody. There she goes into the wild blue yonder. I will be right back, guys. All right. Thank you for joining us. I'm debating whether I'm going to eat something after the show or not. I could be hungry. I'm not sure. Chrono Trigger, how you doing? Good to see you. All right. Thank you tonight to Monica, Foxy Joe, T-Bone ×2, and Echo for the super chats. We very much appreciate the love. Don't forget to shop at our store, everyone. We do not have ugly swag, so make sure you go get something for yourself. Yeah. D-Cypher, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Here we go, everyone. 3 seconds.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. You can join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Jatavator. Jatavator is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night where we say hello to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and another creepy story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. On June 7, 2016, 60-year-old Mark Simon, a summer resident of Southwest Harbor, Maine, fell from a cliff near Thunder Hole after going out on the rocks to take photographs of the sunset, according to Acadia National Park spokesperson John Kelly. At around 7 p.m., according to officials from the National Park Service, Mark and his wife, Linda, parked their vehicle along the Park Loop Road. Mark wanted to take pictures of the sunset from a spot on the ocean path across from Old Soaker. Linda stayed behind in the car and grew worried about him when the sun went down. At approximately 9:30 p.m., Mark's wife flagged down a park ranger who happened to be on patrol. About 30 minutes later, rangers discovered Mark's backpack at the top of a 40-foot cliff. They spotted him lying motionless at the bottom between Sand Beach and Thunder Hole, and he did not respond to their calls. Due to Mark's location, the rangers requested help from the U.S. Coast Guard and Mount Desert Island Search and Rescue. The Coast Guard sent 2 boats to assist in the search. However, Mark was carried offshore by the incoming tide. The Coast Guard was able to locate and retrieve him from the water at approximately 11:30 p.m. He was then transported to the Bar Harbor Town Pier and then to the State Medical Examiner's office in Augusta, according to spokesperson Kelly. While Mark's fall seemed accidental, the National Park Service investigated to determine the circumstance of the incident. The accident occurred in an area where others have been injured in the past. Next, Adam A.J. Emmett in 2019. 45-year-old Maine resident and hiker Adam A.J. Emmett was last seen near the Schoodic Head Overlook on Monday, April 8, 2019. The next day, Park rangers noticed that a vehicle had been parked in the Schooner Head overlook since before a snowstorm the previous day. Rangers searched the immediate area but could not locate the vehicle's owner. Acadia's public affairs specialist, Christy Anastasia, told Fox News of Bangor he was last seen on Monday, and on Tuesday, after the storm we had on Monday, his vehicle was noticed as remaining at Schooner Head Overlook, so we put out a missing person to try and see if other people had information about the person. When nothing came back, the search started. On Wednesday, the authorities searched the Schooner Head and Great Head areas with law enforcement assistance and search dog teams. The Maine Warden Service and the United States Coast Guard supported the search efforts. Missing person notices were transmitted to media and news outlets to obtain information about the missing individual. On Thursday, Coast Guard boats and Maine Warden Service dog teams with Marine Patrol searched the shoreline and offshore using a fixed-wing airplane. Later on Thursday, spokesperson Anastasia said there was a person discovered in the area between Sand Beach and Thunder Hole. He was positively identified as A.J. Emmett. The cause was determined to be accidental. This is a very sad event, said Deputy Superintendent Michael Medell. Our thoughts go out to Mr. Emmett's family and friends. Next up, Wayne Beckford and Cassandra Caceres, 2021. In March of 2021, 28-year-old Wayne Beckford and his girlfriend, 30-year-old Cassandra Caceres of Rutland, Massachusetts, told their family members they were traveling to Maine and would return in a few days. Sadly, they would never make it home. According to news media reports, the couple arrived in Acadia National Park on Tuesday, March 16. Their last contact was on Thursday, March 18, when Cassandra informed a family member that they planned to hike Cadillac Mountain, the highest point on the U.S. eastern seaboard. However, the couple failed to check out of their hotel on March 19 and were reported missing. A search helicopter from Cape Cod was sent out to look for the pair, but they could not find them. The following day, ground searchers located the couple about 100 feet down an icy cliff on Door Mountain near Bar Harbor. Following this unfortunate incident, officials from the park reminded the public about the risk of hiking in Acadia during spring. Jay Elhard, park interpretive media specialist, said that visitors should consider the weather, planned route, equipment, and fitness level to assess the trip and be extremely cautious of their safety. Spring fever can be a little bit dicey in Acadia, especially on the premier trails that we have that are a challenge to do even in dry weather in the peak of summer, Elhard said. It's really still very wet up there, and wet conditions on granite are extraordinarily slick. Ice grippers aren't going to help you with that necessarily. It's really imperative that visitors take the time to think things through first before they embark on some of these trails.
Thank you for Steve Stockton and Among the Missing for coming on in and giving us another creepy story on Spaced Out Radio. Steve kicks things off every Monday through Friday night in hour number 3. And from the missing to the mysterious, it is that time of the night where we say hello to Robin Haynes and the Cryptid Report.
The heck, Megan?
You know what never fails, Robin? Is
What?
laughing. You laughing during your intro. I love it each and every time.
You know what? I love to laugh. I would rather laugh all day long than I would anything else. So I try to laugh as much as I can.
I don't blame you. I really do not blame you. But thank you so much for being here. Very
Oh,
much
thank
appreciate it.
you. You
You
know I
know-
love being here Thursdays.
And you know this is the 9th anniversary show tonight of Spaced
Isn't
Out.
that fabulous? Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. So proud of
know.
you. So deserved.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm just excited to be here. Anytime I get to talk some monsters with Varla Ventura and follow it up with you, that's a good night for me.
Yeah.
good-
And remember, you will be in Nebraska the 26th and 27th of April, as well as Duke Sullivan. And we've got a whole list of really good guests this year. I mean, we always do, but I'm really pleased with them this year. But you will be there, so anybody that wants to see you can come see you there.
I look forward to it. It's going to be amazing. And you know what? It's going to be a fun time because I've never been to a Bigfoot conference.
And you know what? We have such a good time, and we get a lot of vendors that have some really great stuff. And we just have a blast. I mean, there's a lot of really good intel out there, really great information out there. But the best thing is we have fun.
I love it. I love it. For people who've never been to a Sasquatch conference, what can they expect?
I think they're going to be amazed at the guests that we have. Our roster is really good. We've got like Blaine Tyler's coming, Sabella Irwin's coming, Rob Kreider's coming, you, Duke, myself. We have Ron and Alan McGargle coming, Paco's coming from the Sasquatch organization. We just have, and Jim Meyer's coming too. We're very excited about that. So we just have a lot of really good people. And I know I probably forgot some people, but we've got some really great people. And so that's always fun. The vendors are extremely friendly and lovable, to talk to people. They have some great quality items. I think everybody will love. We're in a new event place. So we're over at Grand Island this time at Fauner Park, which is one of the biggest event places in the state, is my understanding. And so there's other events going on as well. So it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a lot bigger than it normally is. And we normally bring in quite a big crowd every year anyway. So very excited to see what we do this year.
All right. I don't even know what I'm talking about yet, but I'm sure I'll figure it out by then.
You're going to do great. You're going to do great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. I can definitely do my best. That will be a good one. That will be a good one. I don't even know where Nebraska is. I just know it's somewhere southeast of me, because everything is southeast of me.
Well, that's where you're flying into. So you're going to go, I think I've got your plane set. It goes from there to Dallas, and then from Dallas into Nebraska. You're going to Grand Island, and then the hotel has got a shuttle that will come and pick you up.
Wow. Look at that.
So, and they'll take you back and forth to the conference the next day as well. So,
nice.
Yeah, we're all set and ready to rock.
Yes. I think Jessica Jones is going to be joining as well, because I think she wanted to come up and hang out too. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio say, "Psst, Dave, it's a Bigfoot conference. You'll be talking about Bigfoot. You damn Canadian." Thanks,
yeah,
Duke.
it's going to be fun. I'm really, really excited. Like I said, we normally have a good crowd every year, and this year it's going to be even bigger. So, like I said, we get some just phenomenal. Our vendors are just the best.
I think my speech is going to be not only on my experience, but embracing the woo.
Excellent.
Embrace.
I think that's awesome. Do it.
Embrace.
I mean, the thing of it is you don't have to embrace it, but at some point in time, you're going to run across to it, because it is what it is. You can't change the truth.
That is very true. That is very true. And the strange part about it is, for people who may not, fully comprehend whether or not this is a flesh and blood creature, or whether there is something spectacular to it, we can't rule anything out until we know.
No. And like I said, I've been around them since I was a baby. And, I remember the time when I thought they were just flesh and blood, like everybody else starts out. I remember the time I thought they were an animal in the woods. I was wrong on both accounts. They're a type of people. That's what they are. And genetically, that's just what they are. And can they be flesh and blood? Absolutely. Can they go into spirit form in a heartbeat? Can they cloak? Absolutely. When they do it right in front of you, like, and you're close enough to touch them, how do you sit there and say it's not happened? Especially if you have other people that are with you, and other people have seen the show that you just saw. It makes it hard to say you imagined it,
I think for a lot of people, it's denial. Okay,
yeah,
they don't want to believe that they saw Sasquatch cloak in front of them, or they don't want to believe that they watched it disappear. It just vanished.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right, because they don't want to believe the narrative. It changes everything. It changes their faith. I mean, these are a very highly religious, spiritual type of people. God is in there. They believe and they worship the same God that we do. They call him creator, but it's still the same one. And that's very hard for people to get their minds around. That's a huge, huge hurdle. And then you're looking at the hurdle where the government's tried for all these years to make us believe that they didn't exist to begin with. And then you tie in an ET into the mix that we're supposed to believe don't exist either. And you've just got this perfect storm. And it's just easier for people to believe negatively and that they don't exist than to believe the possibilities that they do. And they're only one of hundreds of cryptids that are out there.
When you say hundreds, which ones are we missing?
Oh, if there's an animal out there, the ETs have crossed it. They've taken several different, do I know of every single one out there? No, I don't. But you've got dogmen, you've got cat people, you've got goat man, I saw one that looked like it had the head of a possum on it. I still have that one running around here that I have no idea what this thing looks like. It looks like if you took a kangaroo and a rabbit, crossbred them with the size of a cow. Like, I don't know what this thing is. The Bigfoots call anything that doesn't have a name a Micaiah. It's a blanket term for thee that walks the earth that has no name. So, we just don't know what all's out there. Plus, our government's created things as well.
Right.
So between what the ETs have created and what our people have created, there's a lot out there that we have no idea is there. And then you've got all these different ETs that are coming from other dimensions and other planets and other solar systems and universe. And so there's a lot of stuff out there, just a lot that nobody realizes is there.
Including the 6-foot hairy beaver man of Alberta.
Yes. Yes. In the museum in Nebraska, Harriet has a thing up on the wall about that.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. She's got some pictures of it.
That is awesome. I want to ask you, because you and I have never talked about this before, but Super Duke and I have, regarding the Gugwe.
Mm-hmm.
For people who don't understand what a Gugwe is, could you break it on down?
I can tell everybody what I think, which is probably not what Duke or anybody else is going to say, and I'll get yelled at afterwards. These, again, were a modified creation. And the nearest that we can think, and we don't have DNA on them to test right at this time, from the looks of them, they're going to come back, another hybrid, obviously, with an ET cross, with ET human. But these things look like they've almost got the snout of a baboon on it. That's where the big difference seems to be in the facial features. But they also don't operate like a Sasquatch does either. These things they're there to kill. That's what they do. That's the only thing they do is kill. And they don't seem to have, not that they don't have abilities, they do, but they don't seem to have them at their disposal like possibly the Sasquatch do or the Dogmen or some of the other cryptids. They can mind speak. They are very aggressive at all times. Like they're literally, the reason for existence is to kill.
Wow.
Very few people get out of encounters and end up in one piece. The Sasquatch fight valiantly against them. They have to rip their heads off of them to kill them. And so did the Dogmen, but they are really bad. And we get these pockets of them in different areas that make it really dangerous because they all gang up in one area. Now, my own opinion, for what it's worth, do I think that it was ET created or government created? I tend to lean more towards the government theory only because of the amount of violence in them. A lot of the stuff that we see the government create is violent like that because they want to use them for war. Now, whether or not that's true, that they came that way, I don't know. I'm being honest, I don't. Duke might have some more information on that. But the fact of the matter is these things are literally made to kill. And that's what we typically see with certain kinds of the Dogmen or the werewolves or different cryptids that the government's created. We tend to see that the government ones are strictly there to annihilate.
So is a Gugwe more Dogman or more Sasquatch?
They actually, their bodies look very similar to a Sasquatch. They're very well muscled, but their face looks like a baboon. It has that squared off snout like you would see on the head of a baboon. They don't have a face like a Sasquatch has or a Dogman. They have more of that rectangular type of a snout like you see on a baboon. I think Christy Sci-Fi got the best picture of one I've ever seen. She got a phenomenal picture. Best one I've seen so far. She gets major props for that. And you
So
can really see the facial structure on it.
See, the only photo of a Gugwe that I've ever seen was from some campsite where it looks like it's carrying a little dog in its
Mhm.
hand. And that one you can find on Google. Where
Right.
is
And
this?
if you look at that picture, look on its face, and you will see that rectangular shaped snout that is not like a dog. It's like a baboon. It comes out and then it drops down long into like a flat rectangle that sits like this. And that's very common with them. But they're all highly aggressive. Yet they are not anything that anybody needs to mess with or even think that they're big and bad enough to take them on. There are
Right.
ways to kill them, but they are bad. They are really bad, and the only thing they care about is killing.
Okay. And are are they, if you, or sorry, is there any evidence that this is a man-made project, these Gugwe?
If there is, I'm not aware of it. I've actually been really fortunate. I mean, I've gone out on a couple cases where they've been in the area and I've helped, the Sasquatch, whatever, try to kill them. But I've been lucky. They keep them away from me. I have not had any attacks by any of them myself. I've been where they've attacked some of the other Sasquatch and been part of that. But yeah, they're not anything to mess with. They're like your worst enemy.
How frequent are they seen?
I think it depends on your area. I know, like, Louisiana, there's a problem there. There's a few of them. I've heard of like one or two reports in the western states. Duke is the one that really has the information and location on them. He's done quite an extensive study. I think probably the best one I've seen of anybody as far as with them. Like I said, I've been really fortunate where I've gotten called out to a couple different places that they were, or I've done remote work to help remote view where, different groups have been under attack to kind of help coordinate and get them out of there. I've done that with them, but they do a pretty good job of keeping them as far away from me as possible.
Are they spread right around North America, or are they
Yeah.
just in pockets?
Yeah. I think they're actually around the world. I've gotten reports from people from out of the country that have had them there too. I don't think they're anywhere near the population like you would see with the Sasquatch by any means, but they're out there, and the ones that are out there, they're big and powerful.
How big do they get?
The ones from the people that I've talked to are talking a good 12 to 14 foot. Duke's records might be a little bit different than mine, but the people that I've talked to, that's what they've told me.
That's massive.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anybody that's told me about them that have said anything under 10. But again, like I said, Duke's reports might be a little bit different than what I've gotten.
Wow. We got a minute to go here. How often are people actually running into these?
A lot more than we think. It's actually gotten worse. I think the last year or two, I think it seems to me, from what I was told, it's picked up. Of course, you also have the big battle that's going on with all the cryptids and the ETs and all the different planes and dimensions and rifts is going on right now as well. And that just stirs it up even worse. But I think too, you start to notice them in these areas where you get like the bad dogmen or some of these other bad cryptids. All the bad stuff likes to hang together. There's power in numbers. So you've got to really be careful.
No
These are
kidding.
not anything to mess with.
Thank you, Robin, for coming on
Always.
Space Tech Radio. Way too quick once again.
Yes, and congratulations again on the 9th year.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Robin Haynes, everybody, on the Crypted Report. She'll be back next week for another shortened edition, but we love her around here. She's just the best. Coming up next, it's the Dave 101 and the strange news of the week. We will be right back on Spaced Out Radio. Hi, I'm Dave. Super Duke, Super Duke, High Blue Cruise, and Super Duke. Sweet Tony D. Thank you, my man. Sweet Robbie G. He's working hard behind the scenes right now. He really is. Thank you, Monica. Vanessa, put it real good. Do 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 do. Hi, Bonehead. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say, man? It's supposed to snow here overnight. Check the weather network. Let's see. Where are we here? -6 Celsius, feeling like -11. Let's see here. Oh, Friday snow, Saturday snow, Sunday snow, Monday snow. How much are we supposed to get? Total around, not much. That may melt. Either way, bring it on. I'm ready. I'm ready. Thank you tonight to Monica, Foxy Joe, Sweet Tony D, Rain, T-Bone ×2, and Echo for the super chats. Appreciate the love. I do. Let's have a good one here. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night where we say, get off my lawn. It's a Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
Yeah, after 9 years of doing this show, I've seen the good side, the bad side, and the downright strange side of Spaced Out Radio. Over that time, we've had numerous weekend hosts. We've had numerous people come on in and say, hey, let me volunteer. And we've thanked each and every one of them for the great job that they've done. Yes, I started this dream 9 years ago because I felt I needed to find answers to my own experiences, because I was just like all of you. I was somebody who all of a sudden had a bunch of strange occurrences, but every time I went on Google or YouTube or any website that I could find, for some reason, my experiences never lined up with what was shown. And it frustrated me to the point where a friend at the time stated I should start a podcast/radio show. Now, in 2014, when we started this thing, believe it or not, I had no idea what a podcast was. I had no idea there was online radio. I had no idea that there were so many interesting, wonderful people who actually talk about these subjects. I had no idea that there was people like Grant Cameron or Melinda Leslie or Lorian Fenton out there who had been doing this forever and still searching for answers. I didn't know that there were that many charlatans out there looking for 15 minutes of fame. I didn't realize how bad CGI was on YouTube and other video sources, to the point where I used to believe every video that came out. Because why would someone be dishonest about that? When I got into the game, it wasn't about clicks. Clickbait was just starting to come in. None of us really understood it. But I needed to know that I had to do something. And over that time, I have experienced a number of things personally. It hasn't always been an easy road bringing Spaced Out Radio to all of you. I've missed birthdays. I've missed Christmas parties. I've missed weddings. I've missed family gatherings. I've missed a number of school events, all because I had to do a show. I had to cut time short on many occasions because I had to do a show. Some people in my own family called me crazy for it. But the dedication that I have had to Spaced Out Radio has been second to none, because I have taken this as a responsibility of doing this show for the people out there who have an experience but don't have a voice. This is why I've been very anti-government, anti-TTSA, anti-threat narrative on the UFO front, because we've experienced more. This is why I have taken stances against certain topics on the paranormal or conspiracy theory, especially when it involves children. I don't play that game. As a journalist, I want the facts. A lot of people will look at me and say, Dave, you don't provide any facts. You're all about the woo. They just don't understand that due to podcasting, where everybody and their dog can now ask questions, that the lack of journalism really does show in the rest of the field for the majority who put their mouth to microphone. Now, I'm not saying I'm better than other people out there. Trust me, there is some incredible talent over the last 8-9 years that has come out since I debuted. And that's the truth. Some of them are friends, some of them are not. Some of them couldn't even care less. Some don't even know Spaced Out Radio exists, and we don't know they exist either. It's a cutthroat business trying to provide entertainment each and every night with strange stories, from Bigfoot encounters to dogman encounters to alien abductions and the ghosts that are walking the halls of everybody's houses. It is a plethora of intrigue each and every night where people bring their information to what we do. Booking guests has been incredible. It's one of the most funnest parts of this show is lining up who do we get to speak out to next. And there are people out there that I've never interviewed who I would give the time and day for almost anything. You always want to be a part of it of the story, but one of the things that you always want to do when you're sitting on this side of the chair is you want to be able to make a positive impact on people. And that's one thing that I'm very proud of looking back on Spaced Out Radio that we've been able to do. I've had numerous people come up to me over the years because I am very open and honest about my own suffering with depression and anxiety. I've had numerous people, both male and female, come up to me and say, thank you. I didn't think anyone out there could feel like me. But after hearing my story, they know they are not alone. Yeah, it's tough when you look the devil in the eye and win. It's tough because you never know how much stronger the devil will come back. And you wait and you prepare. But thankfully, so far he hasn't. I look at the great guests we've had over the years, from Grant Cameron and Richard Dolan to the late Stanton Friedman and Lou Elizondo. I look at the politician Larry McGuire coming on this show still for his longest interview he has ever done on UFOs. I look at other people like Eugene Braxton or Nelson Dellis or others who we have interviewed over time who just needed a place to share their story about their encounters. I've interviewed people who have had weird, strange life, way more weird than I have ever experienced. And you know what? It's those diamonds in the rough that make this show so much more fun. Yes, it's great in order to get a big name to come on from the UFO world or the paranormal world and tell us their stories, usually the same stories they have told every other podcast, YouTube channel, or radio show. But it's those who are in the unknown, the diamonds in the rough, that come on and blow your mind with their own personal encounters. You may have never heard of them. You may never hear of them again, but we got them to tell their story. And it makes you feel a part of what we do. That's what we strive for here. I'm not all about the big names. I've never have been about bringing in the giant names that will get me 40, 50, 60,000 views plus on YouTube. I'm here to tell the story of people like you and me. None of us have ever asked for the experience to happen. It just does. None of us have ever asked for the repercussions on how it changes our lives from going from who you were to who you are now. It's more than just seeing a dot in the sky that doesn't look like anything you've ever seen before. It's the close encounters that change you. When you wake up in the middle of the night and there's a Bigfoot staring at you through the window. When you wake up in the middle of the night, but you're not in your bed, you're somewhere else in your house. And how did your clothes get on backwards? When you're laying down in the middle of the night and you wake up and you're 5 feet off your bed and you're falling back into bed. How did that happen? Why is it happening? And why does this phenomena keep pushing us to find answers that we are not there for? See, the majority of us are not scientists. We're regular people. We have regular jobs with rent or mortgage to pay. We are people who sometimes struggle to put food on our table and get a lack of sleep every night because we're worried about whether or not we're doing the best that we can in life. But when you look at Spaced Out Radio and look that we are one of the only shows that has lasted this long, it makes me proud to see what our accomplishments have been, where we've made mistakes, but where we can improve, and how we're going to continue this roller coaster ride on the Woo train. That's what makes it worth it. Watching people come into our chat room and talk about how this show has allowed them to speak about their alien encounters or their ghostly experiences or the werewolf they saw in the forest. Just thankfully, they had a tennis ball to play fetch with. More so than anything, the people we have got to meet. One of the biggest thrills over the last number of years that I wanted to do with Spaced Out Radio was create a fan party. And that fan party will continue for the third straight year, this time in Reno, Nevada, May 10th through 12th. At the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort, you can book your tickets now if you wish. The reason why this is important, we are the only show that has blended our audience members with our special guests that we interview. And trust me when I say this, when you are coming to our fan party, the one thing the guests know, our special guests that is that their job is to interact with you. It's one of my proudest accomplishments. My other proud accomplishment is this, the way we are turning this more and more into a terrestrial radio show. Being an old school radio hack myself, there is a beauty about radio when done right. We're almost there. We're improving each and every day, and that needs to continue. But we need your help as well. Your support really benefits us. It's not just about the super chats or the people joining our Space Travelers Club. It's the person who can't afford much, but they save up all year to spend whatever little money they have to hang out with you at the fan party. That's important. It's important to see someone who never super chats, but the only thing that they can do is they share your posts online because they care and they want to continue to see the show move forward. I joke and everything about how SOR is a business, which it is. I'm not going to make that up. I'm not going to lie about it. But the one thing that SOR does do, and that I'm most proud of, is it's created a community of solid, good people, whether they are lawyers, whether they are fitness training gym owners, whether they are former Marines, whether they are working as a janitor at the Arizona football stadium, whether they're unemployed or retired or disabled, whether they are black, white, brown, yellow, red, we don't care. Whether you're trans, whether you're gay, whether you're a lesbian, whether you're straight, we are all here for one reason only, and that is to enjoy the woo. Doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a conservative or a liberal or a Democrat. We are all here together to try and find answers to what is going on. That is the proudest accomplishment that I have, is when I come into our room each and every night and I see all of you already lined up in our chat rooms or anticipating the radio show to start on your end. And I hear about it. I've seen the emails. I've seen the posts on social media. That's what makes it all worth it. I will continue to work hard for you going into year 10. I will continue to give you my best on the radio for all of you, because as much as I deserve everything that you guys give me for the hard work, you guys deserve 10 times more for supporting what we do as Spaced Out Radio. And I thank you for that, because without you guys, we're just another podcast with a mainly silent voice. And that is your Dave 101. Let's get to the news.
What time is it?
It's time for Shirky Poo's news!
Oh, man, we're going to start with a little bit of a Randy offering here. Yep. Here in British Columbia, screams of terror were heard from one of the islands on the west coast. Back in October, the RCMP on Quadra Island received calls about someone screaming for help near a ravine, with people thinking someone had fallen off a cliff. Yeah, that's a scary area around there. Upon investigation, it was revealed that no one had actually fallen off the cliff. It was the screams of a goat that sounded like the human word help. Yeah, the owner advised the mama goat's babies had just been removed and she was calling for them, RCMP said, noting the goat's cries sounded like someone yelling for help. Thankfully, officers confirmed all was well and nobody besides the mama goat was any kind of distress. Here's a good one. Just as any payday awaiting Major League Baseball free agent, Shohei Ohtani in Toronto would be out of this world. Somebody riding the rocket in Toronto on Thursday was seemingly destined for another planet. A photo circulating on social media shows a person, seemingly a man, dressed from head to toe in an astronaut outfit. It wasn't immediately clear whether the individual seated and wearing an astronaut helmet was destined for College Station or the next stop on the moon. An account by the name of @BlueJaysKing posted the photo of the social media site X along with the following message. Taken at 12:30 today, Toronto subway line. Real photo. Caption this. And there's the astronaut sitting a little disheveled in the middle of the subway car. One commenter chimed in with a doozy. Take ownership of the payroll meltdown or a playoff meltdown or go to space. That's right, because the Leafs will never win the Stanley Cup in my lifetime. That's a good thing. I couldn't handle it. In August, a man was seen traveling with a large fish he had hung from a subway rail. I don't get this. In July, a man was captured riding the TTC with a giant snake wrapped around his shoulders. Ohtani, meanwhile, had the rumor mill working in overdrive and Blue Jays fans anxiously waiting on Thursday night to see whether the Japanese All-Star would opt to sign with Canada's only Major League Baseball team. Nothing from the superstar just yet. All right, moving on. A Connecticut woman is suing the fast casual chain Chopped Creative salad company. Why? Oh, this is gross. After being served a salad, she said contained part of a severed finger of a manager, an account bolstered by a county health department's inspection report. Yep. According to the lawsuit, which was filed Monday, Greenwich resident Allison Causey was eating a salad back on April 7th. She realized she was chewing on a portion of a human finger. That had been mixed into the dish. The digit was part of the left index finger belonging to a manager who had injured herself early in the day, the filing alleges. Oh, that can't be good. Yeah. Most people who have been to jail want to break out of them. In St. Louis, though, 3 men trespassed and broke into a decommissioned jail on November 16th, somehow ended up locking themselves inside a cell. Sergeant Charles Wall, spokesperson for St. Louis PD, said they were called to a medium security institution known unofficially as the Workhouse, which closed in 2022 due to allegations of inhumane conditions. Cops eventually sprung the men out of the locked cell, promptly arrested them for trespassing. They also face possible charges of property damage, burglary, and stealing. Thank you, everyone, for tuning on in tonight with Varla Ventura, another great night of our cryptid world. Thank you to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and Robin Haynes for the amazing cryptid report. Man, what a good night of radio. What a good night to spend with all of you, because that's what we do around here, right? We like to have some fun. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAM, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Woohoo! Here comes your 10. Yay. We're like a telethon. Where are we going? Higher. Where are we going? Higher. Where are we going? Higher. Yeah, make sure you check out the Northern Lights. They're apparently pretty incredible all around the world tonight after a major solar flare. Sweet Robbie G. You're owning some weekendage. Tanya Sweets is coming along. I can't wait to get him on terrestrial radio and the podcast side on the weekends. That's going to be happening pretty quick. Be right back, guys. Give me a minute or two here. Hey, hey, hey! It is I, El Omni Volador. I am back after locking Dave out of the house after he got me arrested in Las Vegas at the last fan party. I had to beat up a few cops in order to get there. But I'm finally out. I'm finally free. And you 6 sons of guns in this chat room, for 9 years you guys have been making me puke. Ugh, make me ill just staring at all of you. How dare you insult me? I've read the comments people have told me that you guys have wished me nothing but bad luck. And I bring that all on to you as well. You sick people. Yep, Tim Mothman's goatee, nothing compared to Elovni Volador. Oh, yeah, you people. I have not missed you one bit. Not one bit, you guys. Some people tried to find me. Leave me alone. You people. Nothing but trouble, each and every one of you. Yep. Nothing more makes me feel more violently sick than having to deal with the spaced out radio crowd. Yeah, I know you people wished horrible, horrible things. But you know what? It didn't matter. Because the ladies of Las Vegas took care of me while I was in jail there. Dave's out in the cold right now. Yeah, you guys who eat breakfast for dinner puke. Make me want to puke and vomit. Oh. I don't know how half of you can live with yourselves. Driving in your Chevy Chevettes, eating your bean burritos from Taco Bell. You'd never get to be a fine specimen like Elovni Volador by doing the wrong things in life. Oh, there's that race fan. You know, I never got more love letters in prison than I did from race fan. Comes in here saying I wear ladies' panties. I do not. He sent me his own panties. The hell are you talking about, Moody Mongol? If you were here right now, I'd suplex you. Aussie Ange talking about eating breakfast for dinner and loving soccer. You know, when you were in Vegas with your husband, I had you whining and dining all over the place. Your husband was in the corner crying because he knew he couldn't compete with Elovni Volador. Then you get Human Carl there. That man's a beast. Complete beast. Why would I go to Reno and spend time with all of you savages? If I'm going anywhere, I'm going somewhere opposite of you guys. I like to enjoy my time. Not, oh, I love me. Will you sign autographs for me? Will you make babies with me? None of that around here. I am not Dave Moody Mongo. Get a proper name that can be pronounced. Dave's outside trying to watch the northern lights after I hit him with a 2x4 right across the neck. He might be out for a little bit. Operation Shutdown, I won't suplex you, but I will definitely clothesline you from the top turnbuckle. Don't mess with me, you sour people. Rob G, I got a message for you, you red-chinned bastard. If you try and help Dave out, I will hit you with a steel chair right across the back. And then I will take that brand new After Hours shirt that's on the Spaced Out Radio store that is a Bigfoot looking like you. I will take that and I will put it in my fire pit and laugh as it burns. Oh, I want that smoke. Little Robbie G, I don't want a piece of you. I want the whole damn thing. The whole damn thing. Rob G's the kind of guy who eats burnt toast and likes it. Stephen Finnegan, the only tapping going on is the 3 count after I hook Dave's leg and pin him. Oh, you bring that, Rob G. You bring that. We're going to find a squared circle anywhere in this world. You listen to me now, man. Okay? We'll find a squared circle anywhere in this world. And I swear, on the behalf of Jesus Christ himself, that there is no way you will be able to wrap a figure 4 leg lock on me. Vegas odds are 0 for you. Who the hell is Dave Mysterio, music maker fan? Tim Mothman, how much toilet paper you have hiding behind that goatee to wipe away your tears after I get done with you? Yeah, you people think you can handle this. Not a chance in hell. Aussie Ange, Buttercup. Just remember how you almost fainted at the handsomeness of El Ovni Volador when you first saw him in Vegas. Your husband didn't know what to do. He looked at the size of El Ovni Volador and he felt like a small poodle. Didn't know what to do. I just went like this. Out of here, poodle. I don't need to worry about Dave Scott running wild on me. The guy's too heavy. He can't run anyways. The only thing Dave's running for is the latest taco stand that's near him. And he's out of breath a quarter of the way before he gets there. I would never scare you, Rain. I am the man with the passion of 25 men who could only be like me in their dreams and fantasies. Maureen Green, if you were here right now, I'd have no problem putting you through a table. In fact, I want a table, ladders, and chairs match with you. You people make me ill. Absolutely ill. You don't want none of this, Maureen Green. We don't want none. Rain, it wasn't your ghost meter that went off. It was your love meter for Elovni Volador. Lex Diaz, you don't know what you've been missing. And Palmer, it doesn't surprise me. My presence alone will make you giddy all over. Bring those goosebumps on your arms and your hairy toe knuckles. Mmm. Mmm. You know who should be banned, Rob G? You should be banned for that fashion faux pas of a red beard that you have that you braided yourself. If I was in front of you right now, Rob G, I'd pick you up, body slam you on the concrete, and then kick you in the knee just for the sake that I could. I'm not telling you which knee I'm going to kick because I don't want to give away any surprises. Go get your Ovni Volador shirts right now. You can feel like a champion by wearing that shirt, just like I do each and every day. The weak, the meek, the betas out there. You can learn to feel like a real human being by wearing my shirt. Nobody would ever bug you, bully you, make fun of you again. Why? Because I'm the man, I am the myth, and I am the legend, all rolled into one. Ladies, you all want me. Men, you all want to be like me. And I'm just sorry that I am that too damn sexy to even pay attention to whatever you guys are saying. The hell do you people want? Rob G., your grandmother's dirty ginch are showing. You need a little Calgon to take you away after that. God damn, you people are boring. I'm out of here. I got locked out of my house. Sorry, people. I don't know what the hell happened. Got locked out of my house. Oh, no. That prick wasn't here, was he? He wasn't here. What's with the comments of El Ovni Volador? Is he out of jail? Is he out of jail? Oh, son of a gun. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. God damn El Ovni Volador. Oh, Rob G. He didn't attack you, did he? By the way, you guys should see Rob G's new shirt. Spacedoutradio.com. If you haven't looked yet, I'll bring it up for you. It's pretty badass. So if you love your Robbie G, you're going to love this new shirt. Check this out. Hold on, let's go. Big there. Look at that. Look how badass that looks. We got a bunch of different colors here for sweets. Oh, wrong one. There's the Blackwood. Look how badass that looks. Bigfoot dressed up like sweet Robbie G. Well, I tell you another scary story. My brain's not really working for another story right now. I'm just feeling bad that all of you had to deal with that idiot. Nobody should have to deal with him. And if you haven't gone to our store yet and got your Merle t-shirt, where is it here? There it is. Hold on, let me share a screen again. No. There it is. Look at that beautiful Merle logo. Yeah, the Alien Rob G shirt, I'm probably going to get finished tomorrow. All right, tomorrow night on the show, our Keith Andrews is back to kick off December and year number 10. Hopefully you all can make it on over. Big thank you tonight to Flat Six, the Doug Shelby times 2, T-Bone times 3, 4, and Steven times 1, Tim and Tony and Dry Toast and Echo and Foxy Joe, Monica, Rain, Tony, Aussie Ange, and there you go. We're gonna get on out of here. See you tomorrow night. Let's kill this old week, shove it down our throats. It never happens again. Here comes the next week. Well, here comes tomorrow night. Our Keith Andrews. Later. Good night. Bye-bye.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.